Some of you know the birth order of my family. I was the youngest child in my immediate family, but I was also the youngest grandchild on both sides of my family. You see, I came along later in my parents' life, and I was the only kid in school whose father had served in World War II. I remember talking with my parents and my grandparents about what life was like during that time in our nation and world's history. They told me stories about cars being sold without bumpers or spare tires because those materials were needed for the war effort. They shared with me their ration books because they had a few remaining stamps in them for me to see, and those stamps would allow people to buy the needed essentials for life. Every business, it seemed, was involved in the war effort. Factories were converted to prepare things needed for the fight. And many of them in World War II remembered how in World War I that President Wilson had called on Americans to plant victory gardens. And so again, they cranked up their green thumbs and went out and planted gardens for the effort. They told me that those were unprecedented times, and in my life they doubted that I would ever experience anything quite like that. Well, we absolutely aren't in a world war right now where nations are picking sides against other nations and battle plans for land, sea, and air are being drawn up. But no, we're living in a different situation. We're living in unprecedented times when 202 different countries and territories are fighting the same enemy. And the best way to fight it is different, isn't it? The best way to fight is to stay home. And we're now living in a time when, again, companies and organizations are using their plants and their planes to build and sew and transport the materials, the supplies that are needed for our medical teams to continue the fight on the ground. And people are even, once again, planting victory gardens. I heard that on NPR the other day. They're planting victory gardens so that they will have food in case supply becomes limited. And today, those people that are on the front lines aren't the soldiers, the sailors, the airmen, but it's the members of the medical teams. They're the ones that are on the front lines as they are caring for those that are affected. And we also have the scientists who are working valiantly trying to find a vaccine. And then we have people all around us, those brave people who work in the essential roles in businesses that keep our world going day in and day out. Yes, these are unprecedented times. And for us, we're all called to do our part. To do our part in this effort. We're called to stay home, to social distance, to do what's needed to stop the transmission of the virus from one person to another in whatever means that happens. Many of us can remember from back in 1981, the band Styx had a song that said that we have too much time on our hands and I don't know what to do with myself. Well, staying home and social distancing sort of lends us to feel that way. And unfortunately, when we feel that way, when we have too much time on our hands, that can lead us to stress, and it can lead us to anxiety. It can lead us to worry. So today, I want to encourage you to remember a passage of Scripture from Philippians, the 4th chapter, the 6th and 7th verse. I love how Eugene Peterson translates it in the Message. It says, "Let petitions and praise shape our worries into prayers, letting God know our concerns." I love that. So even in this time, we can do two things. We can stay home and we can pray. And I hope that this Holy Week, I hope that you remember all that that Jesus does for us across this week, the sacrifice that he will ultimately make for us on Friday when he goes to the cross. This is a very special week. And so even though we're staying home and we're not gathering to worship in our traditional experiences of Holy Week, we will still be working our way through each day. Still be preparing our hearts for the celebration of Easter. Our social media every day will have devotions focused on Jesus' final week of life. And Sherry Harris continues to lead us through the stations of the cross, moving us to those final stops along the way. You're also going to be receiving maybe a few more emails from the church than you're used to across this week, because we're going to try to connect you to all of the things that are happening in the life of the church that will help us to bring an end to our Lenten journey and to prepare us for the celebration of Easter. So please, watch your inbox and connect with us on Facebook and Instagram as we continue to move through these unprecedented times. It's a challenge, but together we can get through this. It's an honor to be in ministry with each and every one of you, and you always remain in my prayers. Thank you.